people's focus will go wherever their interests are, per se. I guess probably being in crypto, there's a lot of focus on US agenda and US policy. So that's possibly why I know more about US politics in general than I do even about Australian politics, because it's in my sphere of,
it's going to affect my tokens.
Yeah, well, I mean, look, I tell you what, if the Australian government comes out and says we're banning Bitcoin, then I'm probably going to hear about that. I'm probably going to notice it and probably going to have an opinion on it.
Yeah.
But at the moment, the Australian government is not even talking about it. It's not of interest to them because it's sitting there going, it's a global thing, and they know it's a global thing. And they don't have enough global control to do anything about it. So they're sitting back going, we'll let someone else around the world try and figure out how to deal with this, and then we'll just copy how they've dealt with it in many ways.
It's probably what a lot of countries are doing.
Well, if anything, Australia's probably being a little bit more proactive. They've had that token mapping exercise. They have engaged with the industry. They are talking about what suitable regulations are, which I think is a big point of difference between the US. The US is not doing that. The US is coming out with their enforcement stick. There's lots of talk about. I mean, I just saw the other day that the SEC is. They call it some kind of Wells notice, which is basically sanctioning in some way, shape, or form, or telling Coinbase that we're going to sue you in some way, shape, or form. And Coinbase came back, and I thought Brian Armstrong came back very strongly saying, we've tried to engage with them. We've talked about staking with them all the time. We've went, as a public company talking about staking, and you never came back to us with any feedback. We've been pushing for talks and discussions about this. And all you decide to do is go down, the law path and trying to, sue us in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, it's nuts. And believe it or not, they did the exact same thing with Kin. Like, Kin didn't come out and just say, "Oh, let's totally create an illegal token." They actually went to the SEC. They told them what they were doing. They even traded documents. They talked to them for ages, and then they were really shocked when they got a Wells notice out of nowhere, saying, that was 2 years down the line, by the way.
And I think all that's doing is it's hurting the US's engagement in this new technology in many ways, shape, or form. So with the Australian government doing this token mapping exercise, it'll be very interesting to see what comes on the other side of that. Have they just been jawboning? But there's other countries like the smaller countries like Singapore did it. I know Seychelles did it, where they tried to create very friendly. They usually start with very minimal tax to bring these kind of industries to their country, to bring the money into their country, bring the jobs and things like that. And so that's kind of how these new industries first start out. There's small countries which give very favorable tax incentives, and some of those big companies start moving there to avoid some of the regulatory gray areas that the bigger countries do. But eventually, they don't want to be based in some of those smaller places. Singapore is probably okay. They want to be based where their users are in many ways, shapes, or forms. And so when a country comes up with suitable, reasonable regulation that they can conform with, which will then make it easier for onboarding new users, being a reputable company, they'll shift and they'll move to those kind of locations as well. So the US being very unresponsive, hitting people with a stick constantly without giving any guidance is just going to push any crypto innovation out of the US. And I think it's probably going to benefit, especially places like the UK, because crypto is a very financial thing, and London is also a very financial location. And it's also got the ease of language barrier, being both English-speaking countries. I think a huge amount of the investment is going to move to the UK, because the UK is starting to come on board with far better and reasonable regulations in the space. And potentially Australia has that ability as well. If we come up with some really good regulations out of this, people may consider, Australia being a good place to set up, especially considering that our time zones are more favorable with Asia. So that is, something that could work for crypto startups, is being in Australia, English-speaking nation, close time zones to the Asian markets.
Oh yeah, I don't even know anyone in their right mind who would start a crypto company in the US right now. Like, why would they do that?
There's just too much risk, isn't there? Yeah, you've got no idea when you're going to get, one of these Wells notices, and effectively it's going to kill your company. They've got no idea what they're doing in that space. So you'd be crazy to start one up there.
Yeah. I mean, all I know is that the country that makes it safe is definitely going to get all the innovation, because you can't stop the innovation at all. Innovation is going to happen, like it or not. And it's probably history just repeating itself. There's probably been all sorts of innovation where, that initially got banned in different countries. Everything from cars, probably roads were probably illegal. I think I remember looking up the history of jaywalking, and there's a bit of interesting history over there. And it was actually a struggle to get roads. Roads for cars.
Well, I think the really good story about that one is in the UK when cars were introduced. Obviously, it was absolutely devastating for the horse breeding industry. That they put rules on cars that were similar to trains, and so if a car was going down the road, they had to have someone run ahead with a flag, waving a flag, warning people that a train was coming. So at any kind of intersections, that's what trains kind of had to do. They had to have some kind of signal to warn people that a train was coming through, and so they enforced those rules on a car. So they had someone running ahead of a car, which was driving people, flagging, letting people know there's a car coming. This ludicrous kind of things, which was to keep people safe in some way, shape, or form, but it was limiting their ability to innovate. And then car manufacturing took off in the US because they didn't have stupid limitations on it, and the UK never really became a powerhouse in car manufacture because of stupid rules at the start.
Well, there we go. Yeah. There you go, UK.
But now on the crypto space, they're doing a bit better. I think they're doing a little bit kinder interactions with crypto at the moment. And so I think that's going to do them really well. And I think, if I was in the UK government and I'm sitting there pro-ish crypto and I'm seeing how hard the US is being, I'm going, we'll bring it all over here. Not a problem. Let's bring all those entrepreneurs, all those great businesses, and bring it to this other English-speaking nation, so we don't have those language barriers. We've got the global language. Bring it here, and we'll make it easy for you.
Yeah, and then America can import it all later at a cost.
Basically, yeah.
Anyway. Like Thailand has made it really cool for digital nomads now. So, I've really considered moving to Thailand and just getting some work down there, lower tax, lower everything. That's where people are going to. And I can easily see companies moving to, places that make it super friendly for them, And you don't even need to move the company. You just need to register there. Like, I think, is it Estonia that has e-residency? Register there, set up your banking system there, set up your company there, and Estonia won't bother you at all,
Yeah, the digital nomads is an easy one. It's a bit of a no-brainer because they want people who are earning, good wages in a first world country kind of thing, but high wages. We'll make you pay very minimal income tax because at the end of the day, you're going to put that money that you earn overseas into the country. And for them, it's a no-brainer.
Oh yeah,
it's an absolute no-brainer to sit there and say, let's bring the money from the overseas companies into our country by allowing it to be really easy for the digital nomads to come here.
Oh yeah,
it makes sense.
Yeah. I really hope that the governments move too slowly to the point that it'll be impossible to ban crypto. Because, they're obviously talking about central bank digital currencies, and knowing how slow governments move, that'll probably take some time to really set up and really get going. And by then, I hope it'll be too late, and Bitcoin will pretty much be established as one or another. And then they can launch their stupid currency. And I think I'll just use it to onboard onto Bitcoin.
It's an interesting point you make there. And the question really is, can governments ban crypto at this point in time? I kind of think the answer is no. How many times, isn't that the running joke, how many times China has banned crypto? China has probably got the best system in place to be able to enforce that kind of thing with their, the great firewall of China. As they say, to stop so much internet traffic going there, so they could potentially do something about it, but they haven't really. So can governments ban it? They can restrict it. Like, they can make it really hard to get, I guess, the ultimate goal of some cryptos is to be actual use for currency, to use it for day-to-day transactions. They could put a lot of blocks into that. They could easily do that by preventing someone from creating a pay system that utilizes it in every shop. They could not allow a company like Apple to allow to use it. If Apple says, okay, you can use crypto for payments across their network, I'm like, holy crap, that would be crazy. But governments could tell them, no, you can't do that.
Yeah, I have a feeling it's going to be move versus counter move. Like they could first, I imagine they could probably restrict it. And then if it's useful for me to trade in Bitcoin, I can see myself going to a shopkeeper and the shopkeeper saying, yeah, you can pay, you can use your credit card and get tracked and pay this much. Like, dude, just send me some Bitcoin, a little bit cheaper, tap my phone, there you go. And then if that gets big enough, then the government could ban it from phones. But there's probably still other ways around that. You could still use websites. Then they'll ban those websites, and then here come the VPNs or whatever. So,
yeah. And it's a question of what are you banning? What are you trying to ban? Are you trying to ban cryptos being used as a point-to-point sale? Are you trying to ban smart contracts? That's the real thing where people in government who have some knowledge of crypto, they know that's where significant innovation is occurring and significant technological disruption is occurring. They don't necessarily want to ban that per se, but governments specifically want to ban their fiat currency being at risk. Just like banks want to interfere with their whole system being interfered with. Like it's any disruptive technology. This is going after the banks and it's going after government issued money. And so anybody who's had their industry directly targeted by a far better option, they fight it.
Yep.
They fight it.
That's the right thing to do.
And the government have their CBDC. That's what they're pushing towards. They're trying to build the system in place. They're trying to pivot in some way, shape, or form to have it. The banks are pivoting. I think the banks, they're not going to die from this. They're going to pivot and pivot hard. And banks will very much so embrace crypto in the future because they know there's money to be made, and that's what banks are good at. If there's money being moved around and you can make money from that money moving around, the banks will do that. So I see a future where the banks pivot their model and they will embrace blockchain technology. I see a future where governments still resist it because they want you to go onto their CBDC. They've got, here's our better version, so you don't have to use that one, because they don't want to give up control of their money. They don't want to do that. They don't want money and government being separated. Whereas, I think very much the original vision to a degree of Bitcoiners, just crypto people in general, is separating the state from money. The government should be in control of the money. That's basically what people kind of want in many ways. It's kind of like when we separated religion from government. Most governments around the world have got that separation now, and that's allowed huge changes and innovations in the way we live and the way we work, and made, in general, in my opinion, life better. There might be people that disagree. But that's what we're trying to get to, separating government and money. They are separate institutions or separate systems, and the government shouldn't have complete monopoly over the money.
Oh, yeah. And then the beauty of crypto is that it allows experimentation to happen so quickly, and it lets everybody vote on with their feet. You don't like Bitcoin? No problem. Use Ethereum. You don't like Ethereum? No problem. Here's some Matic for you. So, rather than having the government tell you, this is what I want you to use, and these are the rules for it, and blah, blah, blah. Like, that's why everybody likes crypto. That's why I love crypto. I've got options, and I can pick, the ones that I want. And obviously, the responsibility does fall on me to pick like a crypto that, a good crypto. I don't want to be holding on to an algorithmic stable that might crash next week. That responsibility does fall on me, but I still feel it's better than the currently overinflated dollar. I don't know how that's going to go.
Yeah. And that's where regulation can come in and help to a degree. If the governments want to get on board and help regulate, they're going to give people that, I guess, element of security around what is worth holding in some way, shape, or form. If something can pass these sets of rules, regulation rules, it gives it a merit of trust, a level of trust. Because as we know, and it'll never change, anybody can create a token at any given time because it's an open, decentralized blockchain. Anyone can do it. So they will still get built. But there's a big difference between someone building a token and someone who's built a token that met regulations. That helps. And I think that's where the government should put its time into, rather than fighting. They should say, let's help people understand what's trustworthy. Because the government, in their mind, their main thing should be, how do we protect people from losing their money? That's kind of an element of it, what they're trying to do, because too many people can lose money in crypto. At the same time, they don't want to restrict the innovation that goes on in the space. So it's a balancing act. They've got to find, they've got to protect people, but they've also got to not suffocate the innovation by overprotecting.
Oh yeah, I totally agree that the government definitely has a role, and I think that the knee-jerk reaction by crypto people to government is that, you know, we don't want them anywhere near us. But really, I mean, the reason that society works really well is, you know, the government does help. I hate to admit as a libertarian, but, you know, I know exactly what to expect when I walk into a business. I know that I can get redress if, you know, the business doesn't work. And I think that they've kind of set a really good balance in terms of businesses. Sometimes they do hurt small businesses. So I think they should bring that clarity into crypto and say, these are the kind of things you can't do explicitly, and these are the kind of things that you explicitly cannot do. Get everybody to agree and be on board with it, and then just, you know, let it work. You know, let it fly. You know, but
simple, eh? That's all they got to do.
Yeah.
Come on, governments, get on board. It's simple as that.
If I was president.
If I was president, I'd quit. That sounds like a horrible job.
Yeah. Anyway. Ooh.
Let's leave it there, mate. Let's
leave
it there.
Yeah. I guess that's another episode in itself.